Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mordecai the Hunter, and I'm here to help you shoot better at cowboy action. And if you've been shooting cowboy for a while, you're probably familiar with having to reload your rifle after accidentally levering out a round without it going off. So today I wanted to take some time, go over some common reloading styles, and talk a bit about the benefits and drawbacks for each one. For this video, I will only be talking about 1873 and 1866 style lever action rifles, and my observations on technique will be from the perspective of a right-handed shooter. So if you're left-handed, just keep in mind that your experience is going to be different because of your access to the loading gate, and if you use a different lever gun, I'm not sure why you're here, but I appreciate you watching anyway. Okay, so let's get right to it. There are three commonly used ways to reload rounds quickly when the timer is running. First, we have reloading through the gate using your right hand. Then we have reloading through the gate using your left hand. And finally, my personal favorite, skipping the gate altogether and putting the round on top of the carrier, or more commonly known as an over-the-top reload. So let's take these one by one and compare some pros and cons. Okay, so starting with through the gate using your right hand. You use your dominant hand to grab a spare round out of a loop either on your main gun belt or shotgun belt. You push the round into the receiver, lever the action, and fire as normal. You can keep the gun shouldered or tilted slightly to the left so that you can see the gate, but you also stay on target so you can get the round off as quickly as possible. Going through the gate like this is considered the safest and most reliable method, but of course there are some things that can go wrong. The lever has to be closed to push the round through the gate, and most people are conditioned to throwing the lever open before they remove their hand. So I've seen people throw the lever open when they reach for the round, and then they have to close it again before they can perform the reload. This method also requires you to put your fingers back into the lever to cycle the action, which can feel clumsy when doing it under stress. And of course, you have to make sure the round clears the gate when you're inserting it. You can modify the gate to make this easier, but it's still something to be aware of. Overall, these things can be overcome with practice, and this is a solid choice. The next method you can use is loading through the gate using your left hand, which is basically the same idea, just switching which hand holds the rifle and which hand is inserting the round. By using this method, you're less likely to throw the lever open by accident, and you don't have to worry about putting your hand back in the loop after you've completed the reload. So you get the same safety of going through the gate, and it helps mitigate some of the disadvantages from the previous method. But of course, that just means it has different challenges. For me, I was bothered by the fact that I couldn't keep the gun shouldered while performing the reload. I was usually dropping the muzzle down onto a table and using that to brace, and it was kind of uncomfortable if I didn't have a platform of some kind. I have seen other people use this method successfully, but I did not stick with it for very long. And finally, my personal favorite, the over-the-top reload. You take the round from your belt, place it on top of the carrier, and then push the round end carrier down into the receiver so that the round is in line with the barrel. Then you close the lever, which causes the bolt to push the round into the chamber, and you're ready to fire. This is my favorite for several reasons. First off, it's the fastest reload when it's done right. It has the least amount of movement working the lever, and you don't have to worry about getting the round caught in the gate or missing it entirely. You aren't working against the natural instinct to throw the lever open at the end of a string, and you don't have to put your hand back inside the lever to work the action. In fact, these days I just wrap my hand around the outside of the lever to slam it closed, and then I rip it open after I pull the trigger. You don't have to pull the rifle off your shoulder, even though I got into a bad habit doing that for a while. But more importantly, I can hold the rifle with one hand without bracing it against a table or anything. Now, there are some risks and considerations to using this method. The biggest challenge is making sure that the round is seated flat on top of the carrier so that the bolt can push the round into the chamber. If you hit the extractor or something on the way down, it can cause the round to sit at an angle, and then it won't feed properly into the chamber. You do have a greater margin of error if you're using shorter rounds, so if you're using 38 special in a rifle chambered for 357 mag like I am, you're already at an advantage. But if you use a different cartridge like 45 Colt or 4440, I have heard of folks loading shorter rounds specifically for reloads. Another challenge is that if you bump the lever forward when you reach for it rather than pulling it back, that will cause the carrier to rise again and consequently pop your reload back out of the top. I did do this a few times while practicing this method at monthly matches, and it was pretty funny, but it won't be funny if you do it at a big competition. Or it'll be less funny anyway. I will also say that this is not an ideal method if you have to reload more than one round. But if you've jacked more than one round, you might be having other trouble and your time is probably shot anyway. Pardon the pun. Anyway, so as you can see, there are a lot of ways this reload can go wrong, which is why it's considered risky compared to the other two methods. But most of them can be mitigated with practice, and if you're relying on practice to mitigate mistakes, you might as well practice the fastest. It did take me some time to get used to this technique, but now that it's my go-to, I've gotten pretty quick with it, and I think the reward outweighs the risks. Alright, I think that's it for now. If you like this kind of stuff, check out my match review videos. I go over stages, show you the full speed video, and then slow it down to talk about what happened and why. It's a great way to see real world examples of how I approach a stage and figure out what's working and what isn't. Or if you just like the run and gun, check out the action only videos and see how we do it down here in the Lone Star State. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see y'all on the range.